This week's top tip is all about working smarter, not harder. And believe it or not, each of these projects has one technique in common that will help you really perfect those finishing touches. So let's get in there and see just how it's done. So what they all have in common is the same technique is used for a specific part of the project. So for the ears on this grey hair here, this is a wool top. So it doesn't matter whether you use a coarse wool top or a carded wool, it works exactly the same. The ears on this hair here, the ears on this hair, petals for the flowers, waddle on the chicken, the wing on the bird, and so on and so forth, are all made exactly the same way. And I'm going to show you exactly how. So I have laid out two roughly sized equal pieces of carded wool. You only need one needle for this, although a multi-tool does come in handy if you're doing a lot of work and you want to speed up the process. So this is a 36 star, and the trick is you start the technique exactly the same way. You draw a shape with your felting needle. So I am going to just go around and draw a petal shape, a really rough petal shape with this needle, because what this will allow us to do is it will allow us to get these perfect finishes. And I have another technique at the end to show you how that works. So as you can see, I've drawn a very rough petal shape, or a teardrop shape even, with my needle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather over the excess wool, so you can see there the shape I've created. And what this does is if we gather over that wool, we have no raw edges. Everything is nice and neat. And that is how you start to attain that beautifully smooth edge, just by bringing all of that wool into the center. That is your rough guide, because you'll feel resistance where you've actually felted that shape. And then you leave a little bit of loose wool at the end here, and we can remove some of that if we've got too much. But it's always good, always have some loose, because that allows you to easily attach it to your project. So there we go, rough shape. Peel that off your mat. Always use a topper, especially when you're flat felting. It protects your mat underneath. And then we go around and we do the same again. And I will speed this up because it's the technique I'm showing you. And if you want to speed it up even further as well, you can use a multi-tool. There's so many different ones. I really like the punch tool. This is super fast, but there's lots of different others you can use. And just make sure that you keep moving that around. And that soon starts to felt. And then you will do the same for the other one, because you've got exactly the same amount of wool. But once you've done this one, you can use this as the template for that one. So don't start that one just yet. So continue to felt, and then bring in those sides even further. Keep going, and then decide on the shape of the top part here. And I'm just going to speed this up. And I have a huge favour. If you are really enjoying the content on my channel, I'm putting at least a video a week out now, sometimes more, and I've got a fantastic new series about to start, Conversations in Creativity. If you could give me a like, a subscribe, a share, a thumbs up, anything you feel inclined to do if you're enjoying the content, that would make a huge difference. It makes such a big difference to content creators when you support the channel just with those things, those simple things. And can you see how that's really nicely flattened out now? And using that flat felting tool really does make such a difference on to the speed. And then what I'm going to do here is then we start to shape, but that's another tutorial. I'm not going to do that today, but then we start to shape our ears. So what you can see now is we've got this lovely edge here, but we've still got some little wispy bits. Now you can go around and trim them, but a really, really simple technique is to pop, this is going to be an ear for a hair, and you could go and then shape all these edges with a finer needle, the shape that you wanted. But what I want to show you is how easy it is to keep your fingers out of the way and get a really neat finish. So I'm going to use a slightly less coarse needle here. I think this is a 30, this is a coarse needle, but it's a 38. And if you squeeze that between that piece of cardboard, It protects your fingers and you can really progress with that shape. And because that's quite firmly felted, I'm actually going to move on to a 40 triangle, which is a nice fine needle. So now you can see how that's really pushing through that wool like butter without any issue. And I'll just take that away and you can see how we've reduced all that fluffy area. And we've also firmed up that wool. And then we go around and we continue that way. And please, if you have a needle felting question, just pop it in the comments and I will get back to you. I love questions and there isn't any such thing as a silly question, only the one that doesn't get asked. And you can see all those sides are getting nicely felted in with none of these fluffy bits. It's quite a common question. How do I get rid of the fluffy bits without using the scissors? And this is a really easy way. You still have to be careful of your fingers. You don't want to be poking your fingers down the sides, but what it does is it just gives you something to squeeze in the part that you're working on when you're flat felting, and a really easy way to make sure they've got beautiful, neat edges. And then when you have fully shaped it, and I'm not going to do that today, but when you have fully shaped it, you can take off some of that excess. That immediately and becomes an ear, and you can stretch that with your fingers. So if it's a bit wide or not wide enough, it's still pliable enough for you to actually stretch that out, and then you can see how that will then become the ear of whatever animal you are making or whatever project you are working on. So the petals are just worked in much smaller dimensions. So I've got a bit of carded batting here. This will do. So let's make a teeny tiny one. Again, the same way, want our firm needle. And there are patterns for all of these animals and projects on my website. I'll pop the link in the description for everything. So if you want a pattern to work alongside a video tutorial, then my patterns are available for instant download. Really lovely, simple but detailed patterns taking you step by step, photograph by photograph. So if you enjoy working with a pattern alongside a tutorial, a video tutorial, then they are absolutely ideal. I've sold thousands and thousands of patterns, and they're all the ones that I used to put in my needle felting kits as well. And I'm adding new ones as and when I can. So can you see how that is starting to felt? I'm just going to pull off so we know we've got way too much excess here. And then I'm going to come in with the tool again, the multi-tool, and you see how that there's 5 needles in there. So what that is doing now is allowing me to firm it up really, really quickly, because I'm going to start shaping this. And I'm going to go in at the sides, I'm going to start shaping that, and then this top part here, I'm going to pull that a little bit, pop over these loose bits, some dark wool in there, and then I'm going to start to just felt those edges in. And can you see how that has immediately changed that shape? And you can see how that's going to work. And then once you've done one petal, that's your stencil for the rest of them to make sure they're the same size. And this one here, I've used more wool, so it's slightly thicker and a slightly different shape, so it's slightly softer. So it just shows you how that can work for so many different projects. And again, you can go to the piece of cardboard, folded piece of cardboard, pop that in, and then just work those edges. And it's a really, really useful technique for so many different projects. And see the difference there. And again, then you can just work down the sides, and you could even create some curves to give it even more definition. If you're working like this, I would definitely recommend using finger guards, because you are very close to your fingers and inevitably you will poke yourself. I do it all the time, but I just ignore it now. I just laugh in the face of pain. Ha! I say every time I poke my finger, crying inside, but you will know what I'm talking about. So that is my super easy technique for perfect petals, wonderful waddles, and beautiful bunny ears, and everything else that you may need flat felting techniques for and want to use this specific one. The petal shape and the cardboard are excellent to help improve your needle felting and make it quicker as well.